Hi, I'm Tina from the Positive Vibe Tribe. I'm interviewing Caz today, all about her experiences with grief and what tools she uses. So, yeah, over to you, Caz.
Hi, thanks very much, Tina. Yeah, I'm Caz, one of the admin from the Positive Vibe Tribe group. So we're going to talk about grief today, which I know can seem like a very difficult subject, and that's partly why I wanted to talk about it, because I feel that in the UK and maybe even around the world that we seem to sort of have this sort of hiding away of emotions and stuff like that. And I don't really believe in it, actually, because my upbringing, I think, has made me be like that. So I'd much rather that I managed to get these emotions out and dealt with them and worked through them. And I think I've been learning to do that recently. And that's why I thought this would be a very good topic for me, because it's so personal, and also just because I've been going through it. So hopefully it might resonate with some people. At the moment, I'm thinking that there might be some people who have sadly lost loved ones because of this crisis, and also it could be that it might be triggering people. If you've lost loved ones and you're worrying about losing loved ones, it can trigger your grief again. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm trying to sort of come from today. I hope that it will benefit people to sort of hear my story. Um, I have actually lost 20 people in my life so far, which is quite a lot. As my counsellor told me recently, she was quite blown away by that. I'm 47 years of age, and I think 20 people is a lot to lose. Um, Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, it really
Yeah,
is. Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I'm saying to you.
Yeah, and actually, I didn't even realize I had until she made me write them all down. She made me actually, sort of list them in date order and really sort of look at it. So that was quite a mind-blowing experience for me, and that made me realize, well, that's actually very heavy to hold. And I have dealt with quite a lot of them, but I found out recently that I hadn't dealt with my nana's death actually from 15 years ago, which is quite dramatic. And actually, I'm very blessed. I've got an amazing counsellor. So I would say to anyone that's ever been in this situation that's a bit like, maybe I could go down that road, or, whatever, I actually strongly advise looking at it, because it's really beneficial. I think the main thing is because you don't have any guilt. I think the worst thing about with friends and family is that you feel guilty talking to them, you know. It's you're bearing your soul for starters. So we all worry about being judged. And I think because there's someone there who's not judging you, I think it's really helpful in that respect. It's been, I'm not saying it's hard. You really have to dig deep, because you've got to be committed. You've got to put the work in, and it can make you cry, it can make you sad, it can make you angry, it can make you think, I don't want to do this anymore. But for me, best thing I've ever done in my life. I've used it several times, but I think this one has been more dramatic, because I kind of sadly lost 6 people in 1 year in 2018, and that was just, yeah, I couldn't handle that at all.
That's just
Um, it was a constant. So like the first one, well, it was the first one was end of 2017, and then I lost 2 people in 1 week, and that was my friend and Ollie's dad, which was really, because I kind of had to put the friend to one side and not deal with her, which meant I didn't actually deal with her death for a year, which is ridiculous. It's like her anniversary is when I finally acknowledged it. So I suppose what I'm trying to show is that we're all human. It can happen where we can't deal with things, and that's fine. It's fine to not deal with it, but it's just not fine to never deal with it. You know, you have to know when you think you're ready to do these things. You don't have to be ready, but it's got to be where you feel safe and you feel strong and you feel empowered to do it. I've used a lot of tools in the last 2 years, I reckon. I think it was, yeah, it probably was because of everything that happened in 2018. I really made it my mission that my mental health was going to be like number one priority for me. And I started doing webinars to do with even just depression, because obviously depression can come from bereavement. And if you know, I knew where I was going and I didn't like it. I'd lost my sense of humor. And I think if we lose our humor from grief, that usually means we're going in a bad direction. So it's trying to recognize those signs, and some of us aren't aware of them because maybe we haven't had grief before and we haven't been um, maybe given those tools in our life. So I've used meditation loads. There's lots of grief meditations out there that I never knew they were out there, and they can be really freeing. You can feel so much better after them. You know, it helps just release some of that emotion, not necessarily in a really upsetting, but just in a gentle way. Um, you know, and that I think is going to be valuable to a lot of people. I will try and share some of these meditations for our members because I think they'll be valuable, even for people that think that they've not had any grief. Maybe this might resonate with them and they might realize, oh, well, maybe, you know, I hadn't thought about it. I never knew about my nan. I had no idea it was there, no idea. And I've actually written a letter to her, which ended up being 20 pages long. So it's another technique that my counsellor brought me. And don't ask me where it came from. I literally dreamt about her for 2 weeks, right up until the time I wrote the letter. And I wrote the letter in one sitting, like I didn't stop. And then when I read it to my counsellor, I was like, where did that come from? She said, your subconscious. So this is what a lot of the things to do with grief is, your subconscious. You know, we we have our upbringings, we have our own beliefs about ourselves, we have so many things that affect. And I think for me, I maybe I'm too hard on myself. So that's why for me grief is such a big thing.
Yeah, everyone
Whereas
is different though, isn't there? Everyone's going to take it differently.
yeah, but I think because of that stigma of the stiff upper lip in this country, I think it doesn't help. And when you've been brought up by a very, very tough man like my dad, it's even harder. And I know how he was brought up. So it's like, I want to break that cycle, and I want to maybe share with other people that we can break these cycles. We don't have to be a prisoner of our mind, and we don't have to be a prisoner of grief either, at all. Um, like any kind of technique. I mean, mindfulness works for me sometimes, where I realize that I'm just living too much in the past or too much in the future. It's like I've got to bring it one way or the other. Okay, present,
Yeah,
because that can bring your mood down. And what I realize for me is, again, from cognitive behavioral therapy. So again, if you're someone that maybe has got depression from grief, CBT is another tool. It's amazing. And what I found was my low mood triggered my anxiety. So I could be having in that sad, depressed sort of mood, and then boom. So I'm one of these people that I don't get depressed easily, but when I do, it triggers my anxiety. And neither is a good place to be, is it? Let's be honest. Who wants to be anxious and who wants to be depressed? None of us, you know? And I'm not saying we are all going to feel like that at some point, but we don't, like I always say, don't unpack the suitcase. So don't stay depressed and don't stay anxious. End of subject. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's one of my favorite sayings.
yeah. It's like you
You
can
know,
cry, you can get angry, just don't unpack there. I love that saying.
that's it. It's like literally, because then you're sitting with it. You're like, you're literally identifying and taking it on,
Mm.
and that's not, because you're never going to free of it. You could, like me, 15 years. There you go. I've never ever grieved my nana at all, not once. I just shy away, bang. And there 15 years later, there I am, like, wow, I've got to grieve this,
Yeah.
and I was a different person 15 years ago. So, of course, I've had to, there's been a lot of forgiveness about the fact that I chose to put that to one side. But maybe this is the time of when I could deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, you, that's the way you got to look at life. It's not, oh, I'm
There's
going to
no,
beat myself up, you know?
yeah,
Yeah,
there's no right or wrong. There's
yeah,
no,
exactly.
there's no distance. There's no nothing. Everyone's
Yeah,
different. When you're
yeah.
ready,
It's
you're
like
ready.
You know, like when we say about everyone's on the spectrum, autistic spectrum, I think there's a spectrum for everything in life. I think we can all find, oh gosh, sorry, tablet, apologies. It just fell off my lap. Yeah, it can literally, we can be at one end or the other with everything in life. And some,
Absolutely.
you know, and I think maybe I'm just at that right in the smack in the middle where I'm like, okay, I can take this on, you know, and I see it. I actually get excited about talking to my counsellor, which I know probably sounds completely weird, but actually because it's so helpful, that's why I get excited.
We get
So
excited for sharing it. It is amazing. You're helping everybody else because people don't know that they're grieving. They don't know that they're still grieving, and they don't know
yeah,
that they're grieving. So
that's
you are
right.
helping because you're so open and you're
Yeah,
honest and you share amazing like meditations and apps, that a lot of free apps that nobody knew about. So you are like helping others because whatever you find, you're like sharing it. So it's just amazing.
well, I think sharing is caring, isn't it? That's what I believe in life, totally. I don't, if you keep knowledge to yourself, it's not knowledge.
Not.
So anything that I could possibly think that I've tried in the past. So I lost my mum when I was 29, so that was like the biggest trauma I've probably had. Um, Although my granddad died, I still think that was the one that was the, you know, I was so close to my mum when and she died, and she'd been ill for a long time, so it was hard because there was so much guilt, and there's all these other emotions that, you know, you feel relieved, so then that makes you feel guilty, and you go round in this vicious circle. And I think when you're 29, how many people lose their parents young? There's actually not that many. And the problem is that makes you feel alone. So I'm trying to make sure people don't feel alone. I don't want them to feel like I did when I was 29. I want them to reach out. And it doesn't matter who it is. If it's a counsellor, it's your best friend, it's, I don't know, the postman that you feel like unburdening yourself to, just reach out. Don't keep it in. I beg you not to keep it in. I really do. Um, I don't want people ending up, um, yeah, sort of like not getting the full potential because they're like me, possibly getting triggered each time by grief because there's things in my subconscious. It may happen for other people. I don't know how many people it happens to, but I think if you have one trauma in your life, it's always going to trigger you at some point. But it's
Yeah.
then, how do you heal? We all need to heal at some point. And I think forgiving yourself for all those horrible emotions is part of the process.
Always.
Um, yeah, like writing things down is actually really cathartic. So again, even if you don't go to the counsellor, write the letter to your mother or your dad or your stepdad or whoever it is, you know. And actually, we had the lovely Patricia who did a thing with us for forgiveness, and actually burning the letter afterwards is very freeing. Like, I can't describe the emotion to you because it's undescribable. So
I'll have
again,
that.
burning burning the letter, because you don't have to hang on to the letter. You've given it all out. It's out there. It doesn't need to be there anymore. All that emotion is gone, and it will go when you burn the letter.
Was that the
Um,
full moon ritual? Was
that's
that?
right, the full moon, and I'm literally going to do it every time. I mean, there may be people out there that are like us who really get affected by the full moon, and I think the grief comes out through the full moon with me. So obviously, I get very emotional coming up to the time because there's so much energy, and that energy brings it out of me. And this is why she's spot on with me. It's like, right, let's do this. Journaling is another one. So if you're not going to write the letter, try and write some of your thoughts in a journal every day, even if it's just a few lines. I have the gratitude app, which I use 3 times a day. And that's really nice because when I have bad days, because I suffer from chronic illness, it will make me think of something. Even today, like I had all that stress with not being able to get onto my nature connection. What I did was I twisted it around and I literally took a photograph out the window of the beautiful green trees, and that instantly put a smile on my face.
Oh, I
And
love
I
that.
shared that in my gratitude app, and I thought I will look at that later today. and remind myself that you don't have to be constantly negative. So it's the
Yeah,
same with grief. You don't have to constantly, but you're allowed to feel it.
of course.
I say that you should feel it, and don't feel like you're a weak person. It's not weakness, it's strength. It's sometimes our upbringing, people have been told, and then it's passed down to us that it's weak to cry, or it's weak to grieve, or it's weak to be sad. It's not. Um, I've had so many friends over the years who maybe at some point they've lost someone, and they've all said, after the funeral, that's when people stop asking how you are. And I
That's true.
know how lonely it is, and that's that's the lonely time. That's when it gets lonely. Because then you're like, who do I talk to? You
Yeah,
know? So there could be someone out there, and I really hope that this helps. Just try and find someone. And it's not shameful to go to a counsellor.
yeah.
And don't let anyone else tell you that. Don't let anyone else tell you that. It's
That's
what's
brilliant
right
advice.
for you. It's what's right for you. So if someone doesn't understand, I mean, I remember one time, one of the horrible things after my mum died, I had 2 weeks compassionate leave because I'd actually moved house the day that she died, which partly was my guilt because I felt I should have been in Scotland and not moving house. That's another thing. But yeah, I went back to work, and obviously I got loads of sympathy. But then this one guy didn't know about it. So, of course, he's come up to me, and I'm at the photocopying a huge open plan office, and he's going, "Oh, how was your holiday?" And I just literally, you can imagine, it was full on sobbing. And I think, and I felt so ashamed because I did it in public, like I did it at work, I did it in front of all these people that I didn't know, and I really beat myself up about it. And that's what I'm trying to say. Don't feel bad for that. So I had to realize that that wasn't a bad thing. It was an of course it wasn't. He was so upset. Of course he was. He didn't know. And people don't do things like your perception that it changes when you're grieving. So
Yeah,
it, it's trying to recognize that your perception maybe isn't the right one. So don't alienate yourself as well, because it's easy to push people away
yeah,
because you're hurt and angry, so you push. It's you start seeing things that aren't there. Maybe you start getting jealous or envious of people who seem happy, and you want to feel happy again. It's like, recognize that that is just your grief and nothing more, and don't take it out on other people. So that's another little thing I had to learn. Don't take your grief out on other people as well, because that is not fair.
yeah,
It's not fair. No one, everyone that will loves you will be so upset for you, but they will not necessarily know how to help you.
yeah,
So you might not even know, but sometimes all you have to say is, I just need a hug. I don't need anything else. Actually be honest and say what you need to the people that you love. And there's nothing, and I'm telling you now, you'll get all the hugs and all the love, but the minute you don't say it, people will not know how to be with you. They won't necessarily know how to deal with you when you're sobbing your heart out. But don't have a go at them about it. Try and be soft as well in your grief. That's what I'm trying to say. Because you'll get more back from people, because they're human beings as well, and they've got their own worries and strife. And that's why it is harder opening up to them. And it might seem strange to some of my friends, like, oh, why can't you talk to me about it? And I'm like, I just can't. And it's not personal. So again, it's just been honest and open with your friends and saying, look, this is the only way I can do it. For me, this works, you know. Trying to think of anything else actually.
oh, you've absolutely did it so well. I've hardly had to. I don't even need to ask you anything. No, you just did it.
And I hope it hasn't come on too heavy, because I don't want it to be. I still want people to realize that you can still be happy when you're grieving as well. There's no shame in it. You're
Yeah,
not disloyal. You're not being disloyal to your loved one by wanting to go to the pub, going to a party, getting drunk, doing any of that. because you are alive, so you should live. And that's the other part of it, I think. But you have to get to the moving on bit. But if you do feel like you want to go out, don't feel guilty for it. You know, why? You know, it's not disloyal. I think that's the main thing, is you feel disloyal to the person who's no longer here because they are not getting to enjoy life, but you are. Why not? Why not? We should all.
Like, any advice to give anyone that was grieving, what do you think, what tools or any like things that they could do at home before they can get in touch with someone, what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I mean, when I look back, some of the things,
What works for you?
yeah, I definitely think for me, I wish I'd started writing sooner about it. I think that was one of the main keys for me. And I wish I hadn't withdrawn, because that's what I did in 2018. But
Connected.
sometimes, yeah, it's trying to be self-aware enough to not withdraw. Reach out, and just that one person that you trust, just say, I'm having a really hard time right now. And they don't even have to like have a big conversation with you. It's just knowing that someone loves you and cares enough. I think that's enough, actually. I don't think you need much more, but you have to be brave. You have to have the courage. You know,
Reach out.
don't be embarrassed by it. It's no shame. I think we're brought up to have shame, and that's why we don't do it. Yeah. I think that's the starting point, and then you can decide along the way what you want to do. But definitely writing things down, I think, helps. But if anyone isn't into meditation, I will definitely share some of those grief meditations for them. And I think that's pretty much it. Can't think of anything else.
I think people just don't understand how easy meditation can be. You don't have to be there for an hour, 2 hours. It can be 3 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, it can be guided.
Exactly.
Easier than people thought. I thought I could never do it, and now I'm like, I love it, I'm going to do another one.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I literally meditate 3 times a day, and the change in me and as a person, and that has all been since 2018. Like, I always use meditation for sleep for a lot longer than that, but then I started to realize I needed something else. It was a tool that I needed where I could just grab it easily. And I think meditation is definitely one of them. And it will cover all the emotions that come with grief, meditation. That's the one thing. It can grab all of them as you're feeling low, or if you're, I don't know, just feeling a bit crazy today. You know, like the emotion is taking over you and you just feel a bit sort of, wow, what's going on? But yeah, journaling will definitely help long term. I think it's good to see it written down. There's something powerful about the written word because it comes from your subconscious.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
another one is definitely, if you've written a few things down, it just takes a bit of practice, and eventually your subconscious will send it all out.
Yeah.
And it'll be a relief, actually, I think, for a lot of people to get that out. It's been a relief for me,
Yeah.
and it's an ongoing process for me. I'm going to have my 9th bereavement counselling session tomorrow, and I always look forward to it. I've got an amazing counsellor. I
Good.
instantly had an instant connection with her. Like, the minute she walked through the door and shook my hand, I knew. It was like, this woman is going to change my life. That's the best way I can describe it. I've had a few epiphanies along the way and things like that, and that's really nice. And because it's me, not her, actually. She has helped get it out of me by being on the other side, but it's all come from me.
Oh,
So be
brilliant.
brave,
Yeah.
have the courage, and don't be scared of grief. We all have to go through it, I'm afraid, is the
Oh,
honest answer.
that's amazing advice. I really think this is good. I could talk to you for hours. We'll have to do another one.
That's probably part of my social work, probably.
But yeah, we could do another.
I do miss this kind of thing, because obviously that's what I have to do when I'm a social worker. There's part of counselling in social work. So I suppose this group is helping facilitate that need for me to help people, but it's finding it in a different way. And now
This
I
is
can do it. I can do
fabulous.
it from. I can do it from home. It's like, this is awesome. So yeah, I hope that helps people. And yeah, I will share. I will go and look on Insight Timer and share those on the group. Yeah, and any feedback would be amazing.
Yeah, yes, please. Yeah, so thanks for that, Caz.
Thank you very much, Tina.
All right, everybody. Get in touch with us if you want any more information on anything that Caz has covered today. Okay, bye.